I'm gonna show you a cover and let me know if you've seen it. This book has been all over, excuse me, truck making loud noise. Sir, it is a Friday afternoon. Anyways, I saw this all over Bookstagram, BookTok. People were going crazy over it. And then my book club decided to read it and I was like, okay, finally I'm gonna get to know the tea. Like, what is going on in this book? Because the last book that Instagram really hyped up was The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, which if you've seen my book review about that, you know that I thought it was really interesting and I thought it was really well written, but it wasn't for me. You know, new adult, it's very hit or miss for me because I think it can get a little bit into that literary zone, which is not really where I like to live. This one for me deserved the hype. I thought this was very good. It is pretty dark and it's not for everybody. It's about a woman who attempts suicide and she gets stuck in this space between life and death where she gets to see all of the potential lives that she could have led. It is incredibly interesting. It's kind of a deep look at like how your choices affect not only your life but the lives of people around you. At first, like maybe a quarter of the way through the book, like I almost put it down because it's real heavy. Like it's very well written and the chapters are super short, which we love. I love short chapters. Like how fast can you get through it? It feels good to get to the end of a chapter in like 4 seconds. And so the style was great for me and my kind of short attention span, but it was heavy. Like it was, for me, it was rough the first little bit just because of more of the subject matter as opposed to the actual writing style, which usually it's the other way around for me. It's really interesting because for her midnight library, because she like died at midnight. She's in between the 2 days. For her, it's a library, and her school librarian is basically just a projection of her imagination, trying to work with her through these different lives and figure out which one is better for her, which one she wants to live, which that was really interesting. The whole purpose of this was for her to find a world in which she wanted to live if she didn't want to live in her original life. And for everybody, the Midnight Library is different. Some people, it's a movie shop and they pick different movies instead of different books because the different books are different lives. Or they pick a different painting and jump into a different painting because that's a different life for them. It's really interesting because Nora, the main character, is, one of those overachieving high schoolers who had the world in front of them. And I think a lot of people, especially in the reader community, we're all kind of high achievers. And so like as you get older, you're like, wow, maybe I should have continued with this one talent that I had, or maybe I should have tried harder in this area and I could have been something there. And it's a good look at that type of stuff for people who struggle with thoughts like that, with regret and feeling like you haven't done enough, haven't tried hard enough in certain things, or didn't apply yourself in somewhere that you might have been successful. And so as Nora goes through these lives, she's like, what if I decided to pursue my dream of being a glaciologist and study glaciers in the Arctic Circle? Or what if I continued singing in that band with my brother and our friend? What would have happened if she dumped the guy she was with earlier and went to Australia with her best friend? What would have happened if she married that guy that she dumped? And it's just really interesting to see her going through these lives. If you don't want to be further spoiled and you haven't read it yet, I would recommend leaving it because it is worth the read. Goodbye to the spoilery people. I'm not going to go through every single life that she lived because I need to get back to work. But as we were going through all these lives, like there's just, at that one point, she lists all the different lives that she's been going through, and I was like, she's gonna become a world hopper, like that guy she met in Antarctica who was also a slider. He was going between lives and he'd been through like 300 or something like that. It's crazy. And it was super weird to see how her different decisions affected the other people in her life. Like where in one world, like for seemingly no reason, when she decided to continue swimming and become an Olympic swimmer to please her dad, like her mom was sick and dying. And then in another world, her dad was dead. And in another world, her brother had committed suicide and not her. The one where she married that guy and she realized that their dream life was hardly a dream. And then the guy with the coffee, Ash, okay, I love the Ash world because when she married Ash, she's like, oh, it's really weird being married to somebody I haven't hardly talked to. But they had this little girl and she is adorable. I loved Molly. I kind of, for a good minute, I was like, Nora, if you leave this life, I'm gonna be upset with you because Molly is adorable. I love it when she was questioning Molly too. She was trying to figure out more about her life. And she was happy in that life, but as she goes through these different lives, as the different Noras, she realizes that none of them are her life. Like none of them have her root life. And if she stayed long enough, she would fall into that life. She would forget about the Midnight Library. She would forget her past life and live this one and have all the old memories from that life come back to her. But the whole time she's like, I feel like I'm stealing from this other version of myself. And this whole time her school librarian is really just projection. And I'm picturing the librarian from The Magicians the whole time. She's kind of helping her realize you do want to live. Like, you do want to live even in your root life where things are hard. And the main lesson that came out of this whole thing was that in every life, even in her absolute best one that she could possibly imagine for herself, there was still sorrow and regret and sadness, while there was also joy. And that every single life she chose, none of them were the happy life. Like, they were all gonna have that balance of sad and happy. Even in like her pop star life, where everybody adored her and she had dated like her Hollywood crush and like all this stuff, still in that life her brother was gone. And like it was really hard for her to realize like her different decisions affected people in ways she didn't imagine, especially in her most perfect life with Ash, where she realizes her piano student didn't continue in piano and ended up falling into a life of crime. Like, she tried to ignore that and couldn't, because she wanted to stay in that life, because whenever she had the regret, she would go back to the Midnight Library and pick a new life. At the end, when she finds that blank book and the library is burning and time is about to start passing, she's writing down, she's like, how do I get out of this library? How do I get back to my root life? And she finally wrote, like, I am alive. And she woke up. I thought she was going to wake up in a hospital to her brother standing over her. And I was kind of dreading that moment for a little bit. I was like, oh, this is not like, I don't know. I thought that was going to be a little maybe cliche, not necessarily. It was kind of like the and then I woke up type of trope. And so I kind of liked that it wasn't her coming, back to consciousness. It was her fighting through what she had just done to get up and go and get help. And then she woke up in a hospital with her brother. But their reconciliation, I think, was lovely. It was fun because Nora knew. She was like, that guy that you just broke up with, like, that's not the one for you. You know who is? I know his name. That was really fun. I liked seeing her come back and know these new things about herself and the people around her, and wanting to live and feeling like that possibility. It was just a really good one. I feel like I'm just rambling because I took no notes again. I did most of this one on audiobook. But at the end, when she really was like, maybe I'll go back to school, or maybe I'll do this or that, or I'll do all these things. And then she goes and talks to Mrs. Elm, which was lovely. Just a little bow on the top. Not to mention, like, the fantastic writing style. Like, I thought this book was really, really good. I'd probably give it like an 8 out of 10. It's not 10 out of 10 because like it did make me really sad at the beginning and I almost didn't read it. But for me, it was definitely worth all the hype that the internet gave it. What life did you think was the most interesting? I thought the glaciologist life was really, really interesting with the polar bear, and her realizing, like, almost getting mauled by a polar bear made her realize that she wanted to live. That was it. That was a good moment. It was like scary, but then like sad and then funny a little bit. Like, in a kind of morbid way. If you want to follow me on Instagram, my socials shall be in the description. And I also kind of recently made a new Bookstagram, which is exciting for me. I love posting these book pictures. So if you want to follow me on there, that'll be down below. Please like this video if you liked it, and subscribe if you want to talk about more book stuff. My name is Katelyn. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!